Good morning. Thanks for joining us today, Tracy.
You're welcome. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. We're really excited to talk to you because you have an important message to share. You're a certified mental wellness coach, and a self-proclaimed gut health mama. And
Yep.
as we were chatting earlier, I really didn't understand the importance of gut health until I quit drinking and realizing the damage that I had been doing to my gut and being able to heal that. And we'll get into the details of why that's so important. Um, but like I said, you're a certified mental wellness coach and advocate for sobriety. You bring a unique perspective to the discussion around the role of gut health and neurotransmitter balance in maintaining sobriety. And you went through your own journey through this. And so, is that kind of how you came across this and dove into this deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. So for just a little bit of background of my sobriety story, it'll be 2.5 years in March, April, May. Sorry, just counting. In May, 2.5 years.
Congrats.
And I was raised in a family where my dad drank a lot and my mom didn't drink at all. So I saw both worlds at the time, but me being a teenager, he was the fun one. He was the one that was the life of the party. He was the one that was always, scheduling things and doing things. And I was like, oh, I'm a daddy's girl. I want to be like him, right? So that just was my introduction to alcohol, just how I was brought up. And through the years, it got just you start drinking a little bit more in college, a little bit more after that, a little bit more to be part of a social circle, a little bit more for just a lot of different reasons. I just continued that path. In 2010, my mom died of cancer. And this isn't a sad story, but up until her passing, she started to research food and how food benefits the body and how you can change your cancer through food and nutrition and things that you're doing for yourself. And her diagnosis, she had 3 months to live early on. She ended up living 3 years just by changing food choices and making it last a little bit longer. So that was my introduction to health. Was actually going through this cancer journey with my mom. And we didn't have the education in school. In health class, they don't teach you about nutrition. They don't teach you about your gut. They don't teach you about anything. And so that was my introduction to health. And as things progressed, then that was 2010, being part of a great group of women, but that was what we did all the time. It was the mommy wine culture, right? We would drink on the weekends. And for me, it wasn't just 2 glasses of wine, it was binge drinking. And I would binge drink till I didn't feel the stress anymore of life, till I didn't feel depressed, till I didn't feel anxious. And that just happened over and over again. And then COVID happened, right? And we can always look at that back and we always know what was going on in our life when COVID happened. But for me, it made me really take a step back and say, this isn't right. This isn't healthy. Like we're going through all of these, certain things during COVID, right? I don't want to get too detailed about it, but that the government was pushing and that kind of thing. And people were very adamant about being for or against certain pieces of it. Um, but then that made you take a look at your health. Am I healthy enough to withstand this pandemic that's going on, right? So then I started going back to my roots of, mom and saying, okay, well, my nutrition is off. Let's look at that. And then I started doing some digging into alcohol just in general. And I'm like, wait, I'm trying to get healthy, but yet I keep waking up with hangovers that last for 2 days. It's not even a day or, a couple hours anymore. It's 2 days. And then we'll drink to get rid of the hangover. And then we'll just keep going. So I'm like, okay, we're going to start and we're going to try some dry months. So we would try some dry months and we would white knuckle our way through the dry months. For that happened about 4 or 5 times. Finally, in October of 2021, I was like, okay, something needs to give. So I started reading This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, the best book. Totally opened my eyes to alcohol and my relationship with it and what it was doing. That was the first time I had ever realized that alcohol was toxic. The first time. Like, I didn't equate that alcohol was toxic. And I'm like, wait, so I'm trying to get healthy, but I'm putting this toxic substance in my body over and over and over again. What's happening here? So again, okay, let's try a dry December, and still white knuckling through. I'm like, how can I get past this white knuckle side of things? So for me, it was digging into the health aspect of it and how the gut is related to my depression, my anxiety, and my stress levels, and all the reasons I was actually drinking. So this naked mind allowed me to realize what I needed to focus on to take that next step and say, okay, maybe it's an imbalance somewhere in my body, let's fix it. And then once that happened, it just opened up a whole new world of, this is a lot easier than I thought it would be. And I'm not white knuckling anymore. And I'm able to get through this journey just with feeling so much better about myself and my body and my health.
I think I had the same realization of when I read it of like, oh, this is poison. And thinking about it now, having so much space from it, I kind of think that maybe my body knew though, right? Like my subconscious knew that it was poison. It had to have the way it was reacting to it, but my conscious didn't know. And so that kind of also caused that cognitive dissonance of like, this is something that I need, and the body saying, this is killing you, right?
Totally, totally. I feel that.
You know what's crazy about that is for me, I studied addiction in college. So I watched, just like you, I watched my dad, who drank every day, and he had a, I guess you would say, he would call him a functioning alcoholic back in the day. But so I knew how toxic it was, really, but not the way that Annie explains it in the book. Like, nobody talked about the fact that this is what's ingrained in our culture as a tool to use. Like, now I understand the connection of what I saw with my dad and why he thought he needed it. I didn't understand that then. And then in college, they don't talk about how we're all putting this, like most of us are putting this in our bodies, even though it's toxic. Let's pretend that's not the truth. Like, I don't know what that's about, but the same thing, just even in college, and having that scientific knowledge of what alcohol actually is it didn't connect the dots the way Annie did.
That's super interesting. And for me in college, it was just I want to be part of something. I want to go to the parties and I want to meet the people.
Yeah, I was the same way. For some reason, those were separate. Like, it's okay if you're doing it under certain circumstances, like then you don't have a problem. But nobody tells you, we were all taught that you had to be genetically predisposed, or so I was always on guard, like I have to be careful, but I was still drinking because I thought, as long as I'm careful, you know what I mean? It's so, and then certain people didn't that's what bothers me the most, is that this idea that only certain people have to worry about it, and that's dangerous in my mind.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
It's a very, very human, very human thing. And yes, we all are, excuse me, biologically diverse, right? Different different foods are going to impact people differently. And so I'd love to hear more about your experience with this. I mean, we can all hear like what foods are healthy for us, right? But you really like went through this and saw it for your own eyes. Like you experienced how much food can heal. And and so this really turned into understanding our gut brain connection. And can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so the gut and the brain it's a two-way biochemical signaling between your gastrointestinal system and your central nervous system. So that's a lot of big words to say. Basically, it's a circular motion from your brain to your gut. So your brain's up here and your gut's down here. And there is a system that goes from your brain to your gut. And that one is like your vagus nerve system. So if you've heard of your central nervous system being in fight or flight, and that's your vagus nerve, and that's how that affects that. And from your gut to your brain, that is your endocrine system, your immune system, and your neural system, or your neural pathways that go from your gut to your brain. The things found in the neural pathways are things like your serotonin, your dopamine, and your GABA. And if you've been kind of part of this alcohol journey, you've likely heard those words before, because those are the neurotransmitters that cause you to be happy or calm, or it's that reward chemical. And we've heard kind of dopamine as a big word lately. Dopamine for ADHD, dopamine for lots of different areas in your brain. And that dopamine is typically what you get with that first sip of alcohol. It creates that, oh, this is a reward. I can feel stress-free. I can feel happy. And a lot of people, when they have decreased dopamine, they go to the alcohol to get that back up. The thing about it is your gut is actually created with like trillions of bacteria. It's like a little ecosystem inside your body. And I like to think of it as like the motherboard inside your body, because it literally determines if you're healthy, if you're happy, if your brain's functioning properly, if you have autoimmune. Like, it's literally the hub of what makes you feel good or what makes you feel bad. And what I didn't know is that alcohol destroys the bacteria and crushes the good bacteria that creates a lot of those feelings, a lot of the happy feelings, and a lot of the calming feelings. So if you look at somebody that has that uses alcohol to kind of be happy, to be stress-free, to be dopamine like I did, it's because the alcohol and what I was choosing to eat, I didn't have the bacteria that was actually growing those neurotransmitters. And the gut-brain connection really wasn't there. It wasn't that singular thing. It was like, oh, you're going to eat this, but your brain is not producing or feeling those chemicals that it should be producing, because they're not really producing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was on all kinds of vitamins and supplements, right? Because I think that I did know that my body was deficient in things, right? And kind of trying to balance out what was going on. But then I learned, like, because my gut was so unhealthy, it wasn't absorbing any of these
Yeah,
supplements and nutrients that I'm putting in, right? So it was really like it's a waste of money.
totally. Well, in today's society too, 93% of people have leaky gut. There was a doctor that recently did a study on that, because he, talked about the gut-brain connection as well. But because our food system is so terrible, because the soil has no nutrients anymore, because we use pesticides, glyphosate, all of those things are creating the holes in our gut lining. And therefore, when your gut has holes in it, it lets out the stuff like the feces that you're trying to expel out of your body is now going into your bloodstream, which is causing things like autoimmune, causing things like accelerating cancer, and just certain aspects of health. So if 93% of Americans are already facing gut challenges, there's a reason why we're all feeling moody and stressed and not happy, because of our food system. So it all comes down to, what are we feeding it, and how do we protect ourselves so that we can feel happy and healthy, and have all those the good, feelings that you want to like optimize your body and your brain.
We talk a lot about the way that alcohol sort of wants alcohol, like the desire, the drinking of it makes us want more of it. And we always talk about it on the dopamine level, like, because you need that, your hedonic threshold starts to drop. So you need more and more of it to even start to feel good anymore. You can't ever get that same good feeling that you did the first time around, right? So we're always trying to catch up with that as far as that feeling goes. But I don't think we've ever talked about how it's affecting us in that other way. Like, now our gut is also, like, our body is craving it in that way, not just for the chemicals in the brain, but also now your gut's not getting what it needs, so it's almost craving it more because we've trained it that way.
100%. Alcohol and sugar are the two biggest ones that your body will crave because your gut is in dysbiosis. And what dysbiosis means is there's just a lot more bad bacteria in it than there is good bacteria. So the good bacteria are the things that are creating the neurotransmitters, right? They're the ones that are making you crave healthy foods like greens and broccoli and peas and all of the things that like your body wants the nutrients of. But here it is over here craving something that gives it no benefit. Like we know that alcohol gives you no benefit, and that alcohol is actually pushing down the good bacteria and is causing the bad bacteria to grow. And as you feed it certain things, it craves more of that. So not just from a mental standpoint, but from a gut standpoint. If you feed it lots and lots of sugar, those bacteria that crave sugar are going to grow more than the bacteria craving the good foods. Same with alcohol. If you feed it the alcohol, it's going to crave the bacteria, or the bacteria that craves alcohol is going to grow. But all the bacteria are different, and that's the crazy thing. It's like such an ecosystem where you have certain bacteria that crave certain things or need to be fed certain foods in order to grow. So that's where we hear the word prebiotic. I don't know if you've heard prebiotic before, that term. But that's what's actually feeding your bacteria and causing it to grow properly, not the probiotics, the prebiotics. So, where was I going with that?
No, that's a good question because I never understood that difference between prebiotics, probiotics. Like, I think probably like most people that don't pay attention to this, there's so much to think about when it comes to our health. I think it gets overwhelming. So that's why we wanted to talk to you, because when I talked to you initially, you helped me understand in like kind of like reading Annie Grace's book. Like it clicked. It wasn't hard. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't overwhelming. So I never understood the difference between those. I hear them tossed around all the time. You explained some things to me that I had no idea about. So like I think that's what, if people had this information, it's so valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I get asked all the time, okay, what kind of probiotics should I take, or what do I do initially just for my gut so I can start to feel better, right? And there's lots of different things that you can do. So one of the studies done has been on a gut of a healthy 100-year-old versus, a gut of an unhealthy, let's say 50-year-old. And it's found that the healthy people have more diverse gut bacteria, good gut bacteria, than unhealthy people, right? So what that means is if you feed your gut different fibers to feed those bacteria, so the fiber feeds the bacteria and that'll grow. And that's why healthy fiber is so, so important. Carbs are not bad. Vegetables, your sweet potatoes, right? Carbs are not bad because they feed that fiber or the bacteria in your body. Your body needs fiber to grow. The more diverse that fiber is, so the more vegetables and the more leafy greens and the more polyphenols and the more fruits that you have in your diet, the more diverse your bacteria is going to be and the healthier you're going to be in general. With that, probiotics feed the fiber and prebiotics feed the probiotics, if that makes sense. So prebiotics are a fiber that feeds the bacteria as well. So it's a symbiotic relationship where you need prebiotics with probiotics to have the best diversity in your microbiome. And then the other thing is probiotics are like dog breeds. They're not all the same. So probiotics are super important. You have to have a letter, usually it's a letter and 2 or 3 numbers after the strain of probiotic. So Lactobacillus rhamnosus R011. That's a common one that, actually it's not that common. It's the one that I use actually for, to affect depression and anxiety and mental wellness. So each strain of probiotic does something different. If you go to Walmart and you buy a bottle of probiotics on the shelf, that might work. Half the time they don't even make it through your digestive tract, so it's a waste of money. So I don't ever suggest buying probiotics off the shelf at Walmart. That said, it's a good place to start is looking at the back of those bottles and saying, okay, does this one have a strain specific? Does it have the strain and then the number and letter after it? Because that'll tell me what that strain of probiotic is going to do. Because they're like dog breeds. So you wouldn't buy a Great Pyrenees to be a lap dog. I have a Great Pyrenees, he tries, but he's really not a lap dog, right? You wouldn't buy a Lhasa Apso to guard your sheep. Can you tell I'm a rancher? I'm a rancher. We have chickens and cattle and that kind of thing. So that's why we go with those drug breeds. And a Lhasa Apso definitely couldn't guard the cattle. But that just means that each individual strain of probiotic does something different. So you have to know the strain of probiotic to determine what you want it to do for you. And a lot of people buy them, but then they might be taking a probiotic for traveler's diarrhea when they need to be taking a probiotic for constipation, right? So you have to know what strains you're taking. And, you know, that's where research really comes in handy. You can look up the different strains and what they do for you and that kind of thing. But having the gut motility strain is important. But there's also strains that fire up your neurotransmitters. And this is so, so important. And this was really honestly the most important thing that I did for my sobriety, other than read This Naked Mind, to be quite honest. The next step was firing up those neurotransmitters because I was struggling with depression and anxiety and ADHD. Those are 3 things that I've always had. I would go for a week on the couch, like I couldn't function. My depression was so bad, I would do scrolling forever on my phone because I just needed to take myself out of real life for a while, and that's why I had turned to alcohol. And then when I was doing the monthly dry months, that's what I would do because I didn't know how to deal with those feelings, and I didn't have the capacity to know that, oh, your gut is actually a big part of this, so let's fix it. So there's specific strains that help turn up the serotonin and the dopamine because 90% of your serotonin, your happy neurotransmitter, is formed in your gut. 70% of your dopamine is formed in your gut. 70% of your GABA, which is the calming piece of things when you just need to calm and de-stress, guess where that's formed? Your gut. Melatonin, who needs to sleep better, right? That's a gut thing. It's a gut thing. And we're so quick to put a Band-Aid approach on it. We're so quick to take the meds and I will never, ever judge anybody's journey that needs meds because I definitely think there's a place, 100%. But there's also a natural option out there that a lot of people don't know about. And it all starts in the gut. So just bringing that to light is, you know, something I'm super passionate about.
That's huge. When you were talking, I was thinking about the fact that some people have tried, like, oh, I've tried the probiotics and it didn't do anything for me. So what you just said kind of explains, like, if you're not taking the right thing and you're looking for a certain benefit, yeah, you might be just taking the wrong thing. So hopefully that gives people like, okay, maybe I just need to try something else. And I want that to be open-minding, like open people's minds. Open-minding, I just made up a word. Open people's mind and to give it another try if they haven't already. Because I know that's something that I would do if I tried like hearing this stuff and I try it and it doesn't work, but that's because I didn't get all the information.
Yeah, well, it takes a good, for some people, it takes a good 3 to 6 months for you to even feel effect. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I took probiotics for 2 weeks and nothing happened. Like my digestion didn't get better. I'm still constipated. I'm not pooping every day. But it takes 3 to literally 6 months for some people. 90 days is when your cells start to turn over, when your cells start to get healthy. So 90 days is a minimum that you should ever try any kind of supplement or program, because that is when you're going to start to see the benefits in some people. For me, my brain fog went away when I started the protocol that I started on. My brain fog was gone in 2 weeks, and I had some severe brain fog. Like I was staring at my computer thinking I was getting Alzheimer's. I was freaking out because I'm like, this cannot be happening. I'm only 42 at the time, and I'm like, this. I'm scared. I'm scared what the rest of my life could look like. But within 2 weeks, that was gone. My memory started to come back, and just it was by healing my gut. It was like one of the biggest things that had caused me to, in a way, level up my life, get to that next step of, okay, I can do this. I can do this life. I can do this life without alcohol. I can do this life. I can be the mom that I want to be, not the moody one that's always yelling at her kids, not the mom that thinks my husband's going to divorce her, because I'm so like, the mood swings are horrible, especially when I first quit. Like I could not, I am surprised my family still stayed living with me sometimes. But the mood swings went away pretty quickly. And I mean, I still struggled with the loss, right? Like when you, like alcohol was my best friend for such a long time, and now it's gone. And it was definitely a loss that I felt, um, and struggled with, but this helped get over that a lot faster and like lift the depression and the brain fog and all of that kind of stuff.
I'm so glad you mentioned that it takes time, right? And and to be patient with ourselves and our bodies. We talk a lot about this in coaching, right? If when people get to a certain place with their alcohol use and then they want to fix it overnight, they just want to be they just want to be better. They just want all of this to go away, right? And it's like, well, it took us a few decades to get to this point. So let's be a little bit gracious and patient with ourselves while our body heals. Let's thank our body for everything it's doing for us, right? Let's be very kind to it. But it's really interesting too to note in the society that we live in that's very fast paced of that instant gratification. And so when things aren't working for us right away, we get frustrated, um, and give up on things, right? And our ability to have delayed gratification is in our prefrontal cortex, right? Which we know is shut down when we're drinking. So it's all so related to each other, right? And I think that's a huge reason of why, you I think when people see on social media and so forth of like, look how great my life is being alcohol free, right? And it's a process to get to
Mm-hmm.
that point, right? So I love that you're so honest and open about sharing about those mood swings and how that impacted you as your body rebalanced. And also, here are some helpful tools for that. I would love like a cheat sheet of like, if you're experiencing this in your gut, take this strain, right? Because this is nobody, I don't, well, not nobody, people obviously pay attention to it, but I would say the majority of people aren't paying attention to which strain is in what.
100%. That's what I get a lot. And I coach people individually on, okay, what are your struggles with? What are the top 3 things that you want to fix right away? Which strains make sense to do that? So sometimes it's just bloating, or just people feeling like weighed down, bloating and gut issues and not being able to go to the bathroom daily and that kind of thing. And sometimes it's like, no, I am severely depressed. I need to get out of this. Let's strain. So that's, one of the things that I do with the coaching too. But everything is natural based. So like, everything comes from the earth. So there's a lot of herbs and spices and extracts and those kind of things too that are part of what I do. A lot of Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine instead of just, it's not all 100% probiotic based, because you've heard of things like ashwagandha, right? That's something that will calm you. Not everybody can take it, but it's something that, I work with a lot too, and certain roots and that kind of thing. So it's not, all probiotic based, but that is like a great place to start. So kind of getting back to where you would start, and I know I'll make this quick because I think we're getting low on time, but the Mediterranean diet is actually known as the mental wellness diet. Actually, let me step back. The green Mediterranean diet is known as the mental wellness diet, because that provides you so many different fibers. So if you follow that and you get, like the goal is to get 30 different fibers in 10 days, right? So through different legumes, beans, vegetables, fruits, and that kind of thing. If you can structure that monthly, so if you do just a 10-day challenge for yourself and say, hey, I'm going to get 30 different fibers in my body in the next 10 days, that will start to begin to grow that healthy bacteria that you want. And that'll start to turn on those neurotransmitter receptors and that kind of thing. A little bit faster than just the normal standard American diet. We're just so overwhelmed with highly processed foods and sugars, and don't get me started on that. That's a whole nother conversation for another time. But having those fibers will definitely just help get you on the right path to mental wellness and happiness.
I think that's a good thing to highlight, because if people are looking for a certain benefit and they know that, because I know it's so hard to figure out like what should I be eating, because there's so much information out there, but if you can help them figure out where they can feel the actual benefit, that's going to motivate people to keep up with that routine, because they can feel the benefits and they can feel the difference. I know whenever I change something and I notice that I feel better, then that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I like this, kind of doing it like an experiment, right? Of in over the next 30 days, try to get these different grains and pay attention to how you're feeling, because that's one of the approaches that we use with alcohol is doing a 30-day experiment, right? And paying attention to how you're feeling and going in with curiosity, right? And so many people are like, I didn't even know what I was feeling, and so being
100%.
able to hone in on that and pay attention is a very different approach than being like, I need to get better. Yes, you have goals, right, of how you want to feel and look forward to that, but getting curious and just going easy and gentle on yourself through it, right?
Absolutely. A lot of times when I have somebody start on a mental wellness protocol, I'll have them journal, okay, this is how you're feeling going into this. So let's start that day. Every single day, I want you to journal how you're feeling. So that way, 10 days from now, even though you might not be completely, healed till 90 days or 6 months, you can see the small little progress that you're making. Like maybe you slept an hour better, more than you did the night before. Or maybe your husband said, hey, you're not as grouchy as usual. Got that one. Or you know what I mean? Like all of those little things that you might not notice yourself unless you're being curious and you're saying, okay, wait, how am I feeling today? How is this affecting my body? How did that food and the sleeve of Oreos that I just ate affect me the next day, right? And sugar hangover is a real thing too.
Oh God,
Real
yeah.
thing. So it's just those little things, I think that curiosity is one of the biggest powers that we have. Being curious about how we feel, how something makes us feel, and being able to take that knowledge to the next step. I love that.
Would you have any people who are looking to kickstart and they're like, I'm just tired of feeling bad. I just need to get something started, right? Do you have certain supplements that or herbs or roots or that you would recommend to just
I
get
do.
everything started? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not going to go into my business side of things, but certain things like adaptogens, that's your ashwagandha, certain things like nootropics. Those are things that fire up your brain, that they'll give you the mood, motivation, that kind of thing. Coffee is actually a nootropic, but too much of it is not good for you, right? Same with caffeine. The recommended maximum per day is 400 milligrams. So once you get above 400, it starts to affect your adrenals, and then you just feel worse, and typically gives you anxiety and that kind of thing. So there's something to pay attention to. But nootropics, adaptogens, healthy caffeine is okay, like the green teas, the extracts, that kind of thing. I'm more of I like things already done for me. So for me, it's like, give me the juice and I'll be happy. But beyond that, just, I think that's where I would start if I just wanted immediate energy, to get rid of the fatigue and just feel better, like from a motivation standpoint.
What do you think about like these mocktail options that are out there, like recess, that have the nootropics and the adaptogens to like get that good buzz feeling that we are looking for when we turn to alcohol?
Well, you're not really getting to the root cause in that fact, right? So for me, early on, mocktails, I needed them because I needed to feel that way. I needed to have that buzz. But as I've healed my gut, I've stopped drinking mocktails completely. I don't need them to feel good. I can have my, I mean, I pretty much drink water these days. There's not much out there that I'm really willing to drink. Um, but before it was, okay, I need the mocktail because it's sometimes I just needed something in my hand to make me feel part of something, right? So if you're in a social event, that's a whole nother story. But just in order to get the buzz or that kind of thing, I don't chase that because my body has healed so much from my gut, and my neurotransmitters are firing the way they're supposed to fire, and which is very different from using a drink like alcohol or like any kind of substance that causes that same feeling.
Yeah, and so it's really important to one look at why we're reaching for this thing, right? Why what is your intention for it? What's really going on that you're reaching for, right? I noticed a lot of times if I hadn't had protein and I was hungry, I would reach for sugar, right? Because I needed like something quick to get me going. But also looking at everybody's journey is different through this, right? And so it's really about finding what works for you. And when I say that, people are like, I don't have time for that. Um, and yeah, I don't have the patience for that, right?
Yeah.
And I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you. And so working with somebody who can help guide you through this process, I would say definitely moves things along faster.
Absolutely. Well, and to be completely candid, it took me 2 years to get to this point. It was not immediate in any way, shape, or form. Like I was probably on the mocktail train, still for at least 9 months that I was like trying to create. And it wasn't necessarily adaptogenic mocktails. It was just having that replacement.
Mhm.
Um, but then just stopped needing that over time because I started to heal myself in so many different areas, not just, of course, my gut, but my thought process and my just I don't know, everything,
I
everything
think
started
that's
hitting the trauma,
yeah.
the yeah, everything that
That's
caused me to want to turn to alcohol.
that's the good news and the bad news. Like at the same time, like I know that we want relief right away. And so people tend to give up because they're not seeing that. But the good news is this process takes longer, but the benefits last longer too. Like it's long-term benefits. You don't, whereas the other stuff that we're looking for, if it's alcohol, sugar, whatever we're reaching for to feel better in the moment, is very short-lived. And then there's consequences later. But when we do it this way and we try to find like what works for us in our bodies and our minds and getting to the root of the problems to begin with, you can really move into true health and peace and feeling good just in general all the time without consequences.
Yeah, well, and for me too, it was I needed to be taken out of fight or flight. I was so stressed, and this was a way that did that. The protocol that I took, it was a way to get me out of fight or flight, so that I wasn't constantly turning to the alcohol. But it was also saying, okay, I can take a step back. I can look at this through a whole nother set of eyes because I'm not running from anything or toward anything or freezing. Um, it just allowed me to, and I've seen this a lot with a lot of the people that I've worked with too. They're like, I just feel like I can have that space to breathe and think for the first time in a long time, where they're just so used to go 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 all the time, and their cortisol levels are high, and they're not getting any sleep, and it's just a constant circle. And every day they're super fatigued and they don't sleep at night. So this just allows your vagus nerve to get the rest that it needs and say, okay, stop, let's think about this. And then we can move forward with an educated decision versus just constantly going and trying to outsmart your body, really is what it was. It's telling me to stop, but I wasn't stopping.
Yeah, it's being able to respond instead of react, right?
100%, 100%. And I think that's why too, it's just helped me become a better parent in so many different ways. Like I was super reactive before, super reactive, and I'd be in the kitchen and it would be dirty from cooking dinner and a kid would come in needing something. And of course, I would yell because I was so frustrated and it had nothing to do with them and I felt so bad. And goodness, it's definitely changed the relationship with my children, with my husband. Just our marriage is so much stronger because we can both communicate, because he does the same protocol that I did. He quit drinking, I think 2 weeks after I did. So he was like, well, seems to be working for you, so I might as well stop too. So I mean, it was definitely a journey for both of us, but it's just made our marriage so much stronger too.
Yeah, when you feel better, then that just like affects everything around you. Like I know when I stopped drinking, like it wasn't a switch, but gradually I started feeling less and less stressed out, irritable, all of that. And so my family could feel that, and the whole family started, like the energy in the house started to feel better. And also when you're talking about, parenting, like we've been given the wrong information on our nutrition for all these years. And then we're hard on ourselves because we're trying to raise children to be healthier, but we don't have the right information. So you're helping in that way too, that not only are you helping people feel better and figure out how to feel better in their whole body with their gut, starting with what they're putting in it. Now we can help our kids with better information, and then they don't end up in that same place, hopefully.
100%, 100%. My son is a terrible eater. He's on a kids protocol, the same thing I am for kids, which is amazing for his anxiety and focus in school. But I took them to Costco, my husband and my son, the other day. He's 13, and I took him to Costco and I said, okay, you can buy anything that you want as long as it has 4 grams or less of added sugar. And this doesn't even count like the normal sugar that's already in certain fruit things, but added sugar. And the amount of things that they'd look at it thinking they'd be able to eat it, and then they're like, oh, I can't eat this because they had more than 4 grams. But it got him thinking, okay. And I use 4 grams because there's a Andrew Huberman Labs podcast about sugar and its effects on your body. And the doctor that was speaking said, if you're going to go with added sugar, don't go more than 4 grams. So I'm like, okay, this is the rule we'll use in our house from now on. But it just got them opening their eyes to saying, okay, this is not good for my body because this has all of the added sugar, which is the fructose that the company puts in so that you want to eat it more. So what does that mean, right? That's again a whole nother conversation topic.
We could do a whole episode on that, right?
Totally good. So yeah, he would come over and I'm like, is it less than 4 grams? He's like, yep. I'm like, all right, put it in the cart. But it's just, at least right now I can get him looking at things a little bit differently. And he's now saying, okay, I want to eat more fruits and vegetables, and that, because he was a chicken nugget and pizza kind of kid for a very long time. So it's been a struggle.
You gave even more hope now, because how many parents are struggling with kids with mood problems and dealing with issues at school, and they probably don't even realize that some of that stuff can be either improved or resolved just by changing the way they're eating and what they're eating.
100%. There's a product that my son takes that has an saffron in it. It's a saffron found in, I think, France. But it is as effective as Ritalin is. They don't even go to Ritalin and other focus drugs in Europe. They go to food first. They go to spices and that kind of thing. So like that has helped us focus a ton, which is great because we've all heard about the stories of adults today that have been on Ritalin or some sort of med for their life and how it's affecting them now. But this just provides a natural option for kids.
is good news, because if you're, I mean, we don't, you said that too earlier, we don't discourage anyone from taking medication that they need.
100%.
But if you can change your diet and start feeling better and then stop needing the medication eventually, like, isn't that what everybody wants? So there's no harm in trying to figure out how to eat better to feel better. Like, that can
Yeah.
only benefit you.
100%. That's why good mood, good food is or good food, good mood is such a popular saying now, because it truly does make a difference.
That's so wonderful. And thank you so much for all this information, Tracy. And I know that we could talk for a lot longer on all of this.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you if they are interested in learning more, and about how you help and the advice that you give?
They can connect via Facebook. I'm on Facebook, or just I think I'll have a QR code to my information, right? Is there something that's going to go out that I can put a QR code to my information? Everything is a one-on-one consulting. I also have a mental wellness quiz for people to fill out and see where you are on the line. Are you as mentally well as you think, or is there some area that we can look at for an opportunity for growth and happiness and health? Um, but even just I love to have conversations with, I'm not sleeping well. Where do I start? I get that a lot. Or I am just tired during the day. Where do I start? Because that is just the education piece. But the mental wellness code, or the mental wellness link that I'll have for the quiz will have, you'll be able to put in your name and email, and then I'll connect with you that way too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. This has
Yeah,
been really
absolutely.
valuable.
It's been super fun.